everybody. Welcome to the Dreamer's Edge podcast. I'm Dimitri, webmaster of thedreamersedge.com and movie critic. I'm sitting here with
Eric. I'm a teacher.
I want to apologize for the unexpected hiatus in the podcast, mostly due to partly technical problems as I lost a couple of our recordings, and partly just life-changing and our schedules being a little bit harder to match these days.
And how?
But we found some solutions to get some material out a little bit more regularly starting this year. We'll call this Wave 3, and we're going to be a little bit more regular throughout the year 2011, which is the start of the new decade. Yes, the decade starts in 2011, not 2010. The decade ends at the end of the 2010th year, not at the beginning of it.
Yeah, it's not like year zero or something.
Anyway, we're going to start with a new feature, which we'll call Over Under. And that's when we list some of the overrated movies and underrated movies in a given category. And for our first one, we thought we'd celebrate the end of the decade by talking about the aughts.
It's kind of funny, huh? I remember being in the 90s and being really excited about the films that were coming out. All of a sudden, Tarantino was, well, you watch the films, it's very cynical, but at the same time, there was an energy. Like, things were being produced, and it was kind of like the decade, if you will, of the independent film, and it was fun. And then now it's just like me.
Yeah, I think what defines it, and I think that's the problem for me, is that The Matrix sort of came out with its sequels and decided to make, the artificial trilogy, by which I mean one sequel split into two movies, one with a perfunctory cliffhanger and the other that ignores the cliffhanger for a 2-hour battle scene. And then, economy of language just went out the window forever, and that just became the standard for every bloody blockbuster out there.
I think all of a sudden, movies became more events. You can see it that the movies don't stay in the theater for as long, where it's almost like a rock concert, you have 2 days to buy the ticket, and so everybody's shoved into the one theater, and now it's all about opening weekend or just that itself. I think it changed a little bit the dynamic of the film.
And it also means that word of mouth doesn't really have time to travel anymore, so they have to make marketable movies. They have to make movies that you're interested in seeing the first week when nobody knows whether it's good or not.
Exactly.
So they don't actually have to be good anymore. They just have to look attractive in the trailers.
They're so busy trying to create these events that they don't even bother with the essential things. Alfred Hitchcock said there's 3 things to making a good movie: a good script, a good script, a good script.
The Aughts were more Pauline Kael's description of cinema, which is kiss, kiss, bang, bang.
Yeah. When it's something different and new, people go. Look at Ascension. It was a different idea. It was something that worked.
Yeah, and one of the rare movies in the aughts that wasn't based on a pre-established franchise. Actually.
Exactly. It wasn't like some comic book that everybody knows, and it's like, oh, here we are, bringing it to the big screen, come to the event.
But, and that's the thing. They're not all bad. I've actually had a lot of good time in movies this decade.
Yeah, we did. And there's always these odd films that keep popping up and completely surprising.
Well, especially with independent cinema being a lot less expensive to produce than it used to be.
That's the cool thing about the technology. Actually, I had this movie project with my students, and I asked them to make a film. And this is the funny thing where I realized that I'm dealing with kids that basically grew up on the internet. I asked them to film, and I was like, well, do some of you have cameras? It's like, well, we've got our cell phones. I can film on my iPod. Well, do you know how to cut the film? They're like, yeah, we have Movie Maker, and we can download whatever software. But it was impressive to see the technology that changed everything, that they themselves could make those little movies. So I can understand on a bigger scale, having these independent films that are easier to make just because the technology is cheaper and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on a lot of those, I think, in an underrated list. I know for my part, most of the underrated movies I have on my list are independent ones. But let's start with the overrated ones, because, that's enough positivity. It's Christmas, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what's on your list for overrated movie?
It's kind of funny. It's a movie that I liked the first time I saw it, and then I re-watched it not too long ago, and I was like, wow, this is really bad. It's actually Avatar. Seeing that film again, seeing it 2D, I was like, wow, this is pretty bad. It's probably one of the crappiest script.
Yeah, this is total vindication for me, because if you guys are following the site, you can find the Avatar review that we recorded, and, Eric gave it a positive review.
I did.
and I was one of the big naysayers. I think I gave it the lowest rating.
Yeah, no, it's true. But you know, it's like anything, right? It always changes. But that's the interesting thing about art. Like sometimes you see something really crappy that you hated, and then you keep thinking about it, and you're like, oh wow, that's pretty good. Sometimes it's the opposite.
In the same vein, I'm gonna flat out start with any of the Lord of the Ring movies, especially Return of the King, which I think won the Oscar.
Yeah.
That's a 2.5 hour battle scene. That is not a story. First of all, I don't even like the Lord of the Rings trilogy in the movies. The books, I can understand. I appreciate them. I think, they needed an editor, but that's my personal taste in terms of economy of language.
It took him 14 years to write it, so he often rewrote passages and obviously made them longer and everything. And you're right, should have been cut down. Like seriously, like all those description of the leaves changing, like in the Two Towers, where you're like, come on,
I know,
get to the tower, hurry up.
At the same time, Peter Jackson had a chance to actually adapt the story to a new medium and sort of make these corrections, and he didn't. He just added crap.
And he took away the ending, having them do their little quiet celebration in the tavern, and nothing is changed about the Shire. And no, the book is so much better because all of a sudden you do see an impact.
Yes, and also the book actually picks one ending.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because every Lord of the Rings fans goes like, no, Return of the King was amazing, you don't get it. And it's like, yeah, but it's long and nothing happens. It goes like, well, that's how it is in the book. And it's like, you can't argue that when he's changed so much in the narrative. He's taken really bad shortcuts, Peter Jackson, in there, where the Ghost Army suddenly eradicates the bad guys, which of course in the book that's not at all what happens, and what happens in the book makes a lot more sense. And he moved stuff from the Two Towers into the Return of the King, which really don't belong there. I mean, like, if you're going to accept all those changes, you can't go, he couldn't have made it good, because then that would have been changing things. He changed stuff. He changed bad stuff.
And not just that, when Frodo destroys the ring in the book, it's like not even a paragraph. It is so short that if you don't really pay attention, if you kind of glance at it, you're like, wait, what just happened? You just destroyed the ring? What? Wait, what? And it's so kind of choppy near the end. Mm-hmm. Like, you kind of get the sense that Tolkien was tired of the story at this point. He's like, okay, I want to be finished here. But, man, for Peter Jackson, it's just so long getting Frodo to go all the way to, oh, jeez.
So, Lord of the Ring trilogy, give it 5 to 10 years, and the movies will not be looked at as kindly as they are right now.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I have it here, and I watched The Return of the King not too long ago, and I couldn't even finish it.
What's next on your overrated list?
Blindside, the one with Sandra Bullock, nominated for an Oscar.
In fairness to the Academy nomination thing, it was like nominated for Best Picture in a category where there's suddenly 10 of them.
Yeah.
It's like there was a lot of crap entries in there. There were 5 real entries and 5 going like, let's try to help box office.
Yeah, exactly. That being said, it was crap.
It's like, I'm not racist. I can support a black man who doesn't have a personality and therefore cannot offend me.
And does exactly what I tell him to do.
All the time, yeah. And
yeah, exactly.
It's based on a real story, and I want to say, real football player. I'm sure he's a very interesting man. But the character in the movie, blank slate.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mean to slight the woman that it's based on. It's admirable what she did. At the same time, like the character that she is, like it's like, oh, okay, tone it down here. Like, is this real?
Yeah,
I don't buy it. It looks like a caricature.
It really is. It looks like the idealized, right-wing woman.
I always find it more interesting, like people that are real, especially flawed. That's what's more interesting as opposed to somebody that's just, I know exactly what I'm gonna do, and I never waver ever from that. And I'm never afraid. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Having said that, I actually defend Sandra Bullock's nomination and win. Well, I thought she was really good with a role that really didn't give her much to play with, and actually managed to give a general performance out of it. But
yeah, no, she's fine.
Yeah.
Oscar fine? Yeah.
Alright, my other underrated movie.
Underrated or overrated?
Overrated, I'm sorry. The Bourne Supremacy. Man, that movie does not work for me. Paul Greengrass just became... I
disagree.
I'm sure you do, but Paul Greengrass became, the new action director to go to after the Bourne sequel. And I love the Bourne Identity. I think the Bourne Identity is brilliant. But Supremacy, man, the story where he creates a whole bunch of collateral damage and gets a whole bunch of people killed just so he can apologize to the widow of one of the people he killed. Like, that's fundamentally stupid. Like, is he gonna apologize for all the people he got killed this time around to do
Yeah,
that?
he remembers that one.
What, he automatically forgets all the other ones as he does them in?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't agree with you. I really like the Bourne Supremacy, and I like what Greengrass did with the Bourne series. I understand though what you mean about like some of the action. Like I'm not too crazy about the handheld, and I don't like it when it's jumpy. I don't like that in action films just because I want to see what the action is.
Yes.
But at the same time, like the Bourne Supremacy, I kind of like that ending where all of a sudden, like, yeah, there's tons of collateral damage and it is an action film. And then, you know, there's the two sides like in the tunnel, and he actually chooses the light. He actually chooses to honor this girl that tried to change his life and saying, like, no, you have a choice. The minute that she dies, like he can take out his revenge, and then he decides to do something completely different. And I kind of like that. And the apology itself, I mean, it's the toughest thing that you can do to look at somebody like straight in the face and say it's all my fault.
But the fact that he had to kill a whole bunch of people to get there, you know, completely deflates that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, at the same time, it's kill or be killed in that sense because he's the one being chased, and
Yes, but there would be a whole lot less widows if he had just stayed hidden.
yeah, you're right. Well, he was out for revenge at that point there.
Yeah. But you brought up an interesting point about the Fanca Potente dying at the beginning. And for me, when I watched it, it was like Alien 3. You know, like where I wanted to see Newt and I wanted to see Bishop and I wanted to see Hicks again. They die within the first 5 minutes. I loved the Fanca Potente character in the first movie, and she dies within the first 10 minutes of Supremacy. And I'm like, F this movie. No.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting you bring up that point because she was kind of like that link to humanity that he would have. Like, especially the first one. Like, he's really a machine. And this is why Bourne kind of connects to Nikki, where she comes in and she comes into the third film and it works.
The thing you brought up, although, about Fanca Potente being his human connection in the first movie, it also orients the way the action is filmed, and which we touched upon. And I agree with you, the way the camera shakes was bugging me, but not just in terms of like what I like to see in an action movie, but in terms of what I understood of the Bourne story. Because in the first movie, it was really clever how she was our point of view character, not Bourne. Bourne didn't have an identity, so he couldn't be our point of view character. She was. And so all the action was filmed from her point of view, where she's mesmerized by how crazy efficient he is. And the way this action is shot is really static because the camera is a witness to his awesomeness.
Yeah.
And so you could see everything and you could be like, the hell is going on? You know?
Exactly.
And Paul Greengrass, you know, with the shaky cam, puts you at the heart of the action, you know, like you're doing it. Yeah. And I think that misses the point of Bourne, because Bourne doesn't do it. His automatic instincts do it, and he's sort of a witness to himself. That's sort of the point of the character and what differentiates him from other action heroes. And so having the point of view camera shaking around like it's part of the action, I find does not befit the Bourne story. And that's why, you know, when people celebrate Greengrass's work on the Bourne franchise as a great action director, I was like, really? Because he doesn't help the story.
Maybe Bourne should be in an office, like, just training people, you know, or picking up the phone, like, yes, he's on his way.
Yeah, it would be called the Bourne bureaucracy.
Overrated. I was just thinking about this. People love the X-Men films, and I really didn't like them.
That's interesting, because I actually really like the first two ones.
Really?
Yeah, but no, you know what? I sort of liked the first one, and I really liked the second one.
I like the opening of the second one. I thought like it just made you realize just how dangerous Nightcrawler can be.
It's a gorgeous sequence too.
Yeah.
It's really well shot.
It's really cool. Bryan Singer, in my opinion, has not lived up to his promises. I do not find he's the director that directed Usual Suspects. I was like, wow, Usual Suspects was such a great film, and I was expecting great things, and then it's like, okay, he took X-Men, and it's like he took a comic book, but even the way that he interprets the comic book is as science fiction.
Yes, he did, and I actually really appreciated that for X-Men. Because I find X-Men is not a superhero comic book. It is a science fiction allegory. Because it's not about a hero donning a costume and fighting crime in the ordinary
No,
world.
okay, I see what you mean.
You know, it's totally a science fiction concept of a different race in the world. I think he took the right angle for that.
Nah, those were films that I was really excited at first, and then I saw it and I'm like, didn't do it for me. And the third one was just crap.
Oh, that's terrible.
And X-Men Wolverine, oh.
Yeah, although you can't call those overrated because nobody likes them.
Yeah, exactly. I can't call that overrated, but how about you? Your overrated one.
I'm hesitating between two movies, I gotta tell you.
Oh, well.
Sideways. I'll go with Sideways. That scene with a girl talking about wine when she's really talking about him is sort of... That's the sort of scene for which you watch cinema. It's a gorgeous scene. But the rest of the movie, for me, was absolute crap. I really dislike Sideways. I hate the characters. I think they're imbeciles, and I don't believe in them as human beings. I think they're just a collection of male insecurities awkwardly put together, and, you know, the director trying to convince us that that's a person, and it does not come off as a person to me. And having to sit 2 hours to watch these idiots was killing me.
I didn't have that violent a reaction, but at the same time, like, I'm like, yeah, it is an overrated film. I agree with that. And also, one of the things that stood out for me were they spend a lot of time in the hotel. A lot of shots are in the hotel, and it's like, this is the one thing that made me realize that it works for a book. You can spend like tons and tons of time like in one room and it works. It can work in a film if you have an interesting dialogue. Like I'm thinking Under Suspicion with Gene Hackman and Morgan Freeman. Like they spend a lot of time in the police station. And seriously, that works. Most of the time in movies, you want the movie to move. You want to go from one scene to another and you want to jump. And that's the part that's interesting about movies. Like we were talking about The Bourne Identity. What I love about The Bourne Identity is that when it says it's in Paris, it is in Paris.
Yes.
Sideways was always a lot in that hotel room. Get out of there. Come on.
I know, it's the most static road trip movie I've ever seen.
Exactly. That was the main problem I had, where I'm like, it can work in a book, sure, if you're talking about something interesting, but in a movie, it's just boring. I did come out of it almost feeling like I knew something about Pinot wine. What was your other overrated film?
The other one that is Gladiator. The poor man's Ben-Hur.
Oh, man. You know what? Those are excellent picks because I hate Gladiator. I thought it was so American in a way. Like, here's a general that wants to be a farmer. And I'm like, really? Just like George Washington? Is that it?
I didn't see that, but that's true.
Ridley Scott, I don't like him. His movies, I'll watch them. I'm like, they look good.
Mm-hmm. No, he's a great visual actor.
Yeah, but he doesn't know what a character is.
It's true that his best movie is a horror film where character is not as necessary to it. I'm referring to Alien.
Yeah, and that works perfectly.
Yeah.
But look at something like even Blade Runner. Blade Runner is gorgeous to look at. What characters are in there?
Everybody acts really cold and an android. But again, that plays to the movie's advantage because...
Yeah. But at the same time, that's one movie that I tried so many times to like. Ooh, actually, just reminded me of the other one that I wanted to say. Kill Bill.
I love Kill Bill.
I hate Kill Bill.
All right, make your case.
Make my case? Very simply, it feels like a video game. Mm-hmm. It's all about like going to and taking out like every single person. Mm-hmm. And I get it that it's a film that's saying wink wink, I know what I'm doing with all of these Asian action films. So what?
Well, it's not just Asian action films, in fairness. I mean, the episodic thing is definitely there.
Yeah, you're right there. But, yeah, just got my nerves.
Yeah, because the episodic thing, it is there. It's true. Kill Bill is just, a bunch of episodes.
Maybe it would have worked better as a series.
Maybe. At the same time, for me it worked because, it was a tour through exploitation cinema of the 70s.
Especially this was the film that came out after he did Jackie Brown.
Yes.
And I love Jackie Brown. I think it's his best film.
Yeah, well, Jackie Brown, let's be honest, represents exactly the sort of movie we all wish Quentin Tarantino would do all the time. Because we see that potential in him, we see that intelligence in him, and that movie has all of that and a bit of maturity.
Too. Yeah, and the dialogue that's interesting, like even between mature people.
Well, that's the thing. It's his most mature movie, and we all wish he would do more of those.
But that's the thing. After, I saw Kill Bill, and it didn't live up to the expectation where I'm like, it feels like you just took like a very old script that you wrote when you were 20, and it's like, oh yeah, let's film that.
I don't know. I think it keeping the story, simple so that you can, like a video game, exactly go into, Mario World 1-1 and then Mario World 1-2
Yeah.
essentially, and where he essentially goes into a different cinematic era. I think you need a simple story because if you start weaving, a little bit more complexity and a little bit more soul into it, you sort of lose the gimmick because the subplots have to fall into each other for the complexity to work, and then you'd lose that World 1-1 aspect to it.
Yeah, and I get it, but yeah, didn't do it for me.
Yeah, I took a crap out of those.
There you go.
Well, let us talk about the
Underrated.
Yeah, actually, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna conclude this episode and bid you farewell until next week when we're gonna talk about the underrated movies of the last decade, which I think is probably gonna be more interesting because we're not gonna spend the entire time bitching.
Or maybe we will.
See you next time.
See ya.